Just to confirm for the listeners who I've got on the phone right now, it is the one and only Mysterion The Mind Reader. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the rare people who do.
Thank you. Yeah.
I've been called Mysterio. I've been called Mysteron. I've been called Magictron. I've been called every imaginable name, and you got it right.
Well, thank you. I'm glad. I'm proud of myself for that. I've spoken to much more complicated names, so I can't take too much credit. Let me ask you: do you remember, as a child, who the first comedian you ever saw was?
The first comedian?
Yeah.
Mm, Probably on Saturday Night Live. I used to stay up late. No, you know who it would have been? It would have been Benny Hill.
Oh wow.
Benny Hill would have been it. You mean, like, I used to stay up, and I was raised by my grandparents, and I used to, stay up until about 10:30 or 11 at night because we had a house full of his kids, and then there was me, and it was kind of the only time I was able to sit in the living room alone, like with one other person, opposed to five or six. And so he let me stay up until 10:30 usually on a school night, which is late, but I used to watch Benny Hill, and yeah, I mean, it left a pretty lasting impression on me, and I loved Benny Hill growing up. I remember one day in school, we were all talking about what we watch on TV, and, the kids, Fraggle Rock or G.I. Joe or whatever, and I say Benny Hill, and the teacher looks at me like, what? And then another kid in the back is like, I love Benny Hill, and it was like, we both got a call home, right? Like, what are you guys doing? But yeah, that would be who it was.
That's interesting. Like you said, it really shows that you were raised by your grandparents, that you were watching Benny Hill at such a young age. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Totally different generation, different headspace.
well, and I like that you named off some cartoons that are from your era too. I was going to ask you that, but would you say that growing up watching Benny Hill is what inspired you to want to get into entertainment?
No, not Benny Hill, but Benny Hill definitely is part of my tongue-in-cheek and wit, and my sort of, at times I can be a little bit, at lack of a better word, naughty. I play around with innuendos a bit, especially when I do solo work or in my own comedy. But more so, it would have been the mentalist, the amazing Kreskin, who was the guy who I used to watch and want to be like. And he was a guy. He's still around, and he is a fellow who's very unique. He had a TV show that was on in the afternoons on a school day. So if I was home for lunch or if I was sick, I would watch Kreskin, or I would tape it so I could watch it when I got back. And this was a guy who just looked like kind of dressed a little bit out of date, and he had big horn-rimmed glasses and a really bad haircut, and yet he could read minds. And there was something about him where I went, man, this guy's got a superpower, or he has to have a superpower. And I kind of started to, dive into magic a little bit and mentalism, which is what he did or he does and I do. And I found that, it was really incredible to see people's reactions when you read their thoughts. And as a kid, I didn't really have much to go with because it wasn't like now when you could go online and access anything. I kind of had to figure out some of it myself and go to the library or talk to my uncle who knew very basic magic. And I came up with 2 or 3 little tricks that I would do, and it would freak people out. And I knew from a young age how much power somebody could have when they have some type of an advancement on somebody, be it a magic trick or knowledge or something like that. So I would have been Kreskin. But definitely the comedy, the Benny Hill's edge is there too.
No, I love that answer. There's so many things that are mysterious about your character, and I have so many questions towards it. Like, and I'm an ignoramus on the topic. When you use the term mentalist, I don't know
Sure.
what that means. Can you tell me what is a mentalist?
Yeah, a mentalist is a magician. It's a cousin of a magician. And instead of using sleight of hand, we use sleight of mind and psychology to create the world of the supernatural, mind reading, and basically anything that falls into that category. Some mentalists like to call themselves bizarrists. Some like to call themselves thought readers or mind readers or, this type of thing. But generally, the term means a magician who deals with mind reading and subject matters of the supernatural. So maybe bending a spoon with your mind or predicting something that's going to happen. And some mentalists use playing cards. They'll guess a card or something like this. I wouldn't do that. That's a little bit too magic-y for me. I would do something like, for example, imagine the name of someone who's no longer living, and then it appears on a chalkboard that you've been holding. Something like that. So it's creepier. It has more of an impact where, you kind of look at it and go, that could have been real. I'm not saying it is, but it could have been. And then people are more responsive to it. I've had people faint when they've seen what I do. I've had people cry. I've had people, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've had people, every imaginable, have somebody hit me. There's humans react to having their mind read in an unusual way, and it's very strong. So that's mentalism in a nutshell.
Well, no, and it does. You know what I love about it is it, as a child, as you get older, you realize that all the things that you thought were magical and fun aren't real. And magicians, for me, or mentalists, I guess in this case, because you're taking it to that next more. To me, that sounds like a sophisticated level of it.
It's funny you said that because back in the day, magicians, a lot of them were seen as practicing a real craft. They were in some type of pact with the devil or the occult, and they didn't really disclaim what they were doing, and so a lot of people in the public thought, well, hey, this girl really is floating, or this rose really did appear from nowhere. And if you look at the old magic posters, you'll see that a lot of the magicians have little devils sitting on their shoulder, whispering in their ear, and that's kind of like a nod to the idea that they're getting their powers from the other side. And this was something that was frowned upon by a lot of people, especially Houdini, who didn't agree with using falsehoods to explain your power. You could say it's fun, or you could say I'm going to do this, but you definitely don't say it's real. Mentalism is kind of the last frontier of that. It's funny because I could say to somebody, I'm real, and they'll say to me, you're not. But then I'll say to somebody, I'm not real, and I'll do something, and they'll say, no, you're lying, you are. It has this weird dichotomy to it that kind of contradicts anything that any other magic achieves. And that's where I like it, because it can kind of allow for a lot of massaging of the brain and playing around with how people perceive things. And also it's a learning curve for me every day, because if somebody is faithful and they're very religious, I know going into it where I can play with and what I shouldn't say and where I could go with it. And when somebody's a skeptic, I can go into it differently, and I can say, you know what, I'm not using any supernatural powers, I'm using suggestion, and then they're going to be more in tune to agree with me. Maybe you did suggest I pick that, or maybe it was something you said, or a way that it was presented. And so there's a lot of little things that you can play with, and that's sort of the challenge when we go into these situations, because everyone is different, to kind of read your spectator and hear what they say and how they do things, and look at them and read their body language. All these things are very important, and it's an amazing branch of magic where it still could be perceived as real.
Well, I look forward to seeing you. I think I've seen you over the years, because you're someone who's been around for many years in the city of Toronto. You've appeared on CP24 numerous times.
Oh, yeah.
Music. And when I saw your face for the first time, I'm like, I know this guy.
I've been on everything and all over the world. I mean, I almost called her Mysterion. Steffi K and I are the sentimentalists. We're two mentalists, and she and I have been working now as a team for just under 5 years. And man, the things that we've done, she is just spectacular at her job at reading people, where I've sort of taken a step back and become the moderator during the program. And we've been on America's Got Talent. We made it to the quarterfinals. We did Penn and Teller's show Fool Us, and we actually fooled Penn and Teller. They couldn't figure out how we were doing what we do. And her and I work at the Magic Castle in Hollywood. We're both members of the Academy of Magical Arts. The Magic Castle, if you don't know what it is, it's like the the mecca for magicians. It's an old mansion in Hollywood. Members only. You can't get in unless you are a member or know a member, and they bring you in with them. And every night they have about 5 or 6 shows happening in rotation throughout the night for the week. They'll have a roster of performers, and we've been there. I mean, we've done over 100 shows there now, and it's, you know, it's pretty wild to think that I started in, you know, a little club on Queen West, you know, at Queen and Bathurst, holding 30 people, and then from there going to Vegas or LA or, you know, these big things that were really out of my reach that are now part of my regular routine, and I'm so thankful for it. So many people in Toronto over the years have supported me in different ways and in different industries and in different aspects, but you know, I never thought that this would ever happen, and in the last 5 years it did. I'm getting older. I'm no spring chicken. Not like it's, you know, I'm 25 and I got my life ahead of me. I was comfortable here, and I was, you know what, I don't need to go out and get a visa to work in the States and do all these things. That's expensive. But Steffi sort of pushed that because she's younger, and I'm so thankful that she did, because I wouldn't have experienced those things unless I'd taken on the partnership.
I think Kenny versus Spenny is another one that you forgot to drop.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a fun show. They're good guys.
You know, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, they're like they are in the show. They're really fun guys. I got so much response from that show. I'll tell you one funny thing that happened was there was a young lady who was enamored with me, and this was the days of MySpace. Let's just date me a little bit here, but she would kind of ask me out on MySpace, and I don't do that sort of thing. Or I may have had a girlfriend at the time, who knows? But I just wasn't interested, and there was no reason other than I don't really date fans, you know, whatever. But anyway, she came to my house. She found my place by looking at the footage from Kenny and Spenny and matching up the B-roll to where I live, because she knew I lived in Parkdale. So she literally drove around looking for the match and waited for me. And I came home one night at, I don't know, 10:30, 11 at night, and there she is, and she's like, "Hey, Mysterion." I'm like, "Who the hell is that?" And I go over to the car, and my heart's going, "Oh no," you know, I got a stalker. And she had bought me like a vampire hunting kit, like a vintage one or something, and she's like, "I brought you something." And the little angel on one shoulder is like, "Go inside." The other one's like, "Take the kit and take her for a drink." So I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to take her for a drink. She went out of her way and brought me something cool, right? But it led to so many fun things, and everyone loved that show and still does. You know, I know that they're doing a tour, and they still have a really, really successful audience, and I'm really happy for those two guys. They're super good guys.
Yeah, man, I love their show. I thought it was a fun watch every time. I got to ask you, you being someone, and I hate to ask this question, but I have to. I'm sure you're familiar with the movie Now You See Me. Yeah,
actually, Steffi and I did the pre-movie launch parties in Toronto for that movie. Yeah.
Okay, well then you're obviously a fan of what they did. I was going to ask you, like, how do you like how they portray magic and, I guess, mentalism? Am I saying that right?
I think it's fantastical. I think it's an interesting spin. I think that there's room for interpretation in any type of media. I'm not strict with how a mentalist or a magician is portrayed. You know, in a movie like that, of course, you know, you're going to take something that we do for entertainment and apply it as a real-life skill that you can rob a bank or, you know, do something fantastical with, which I think is fine. I think it's kind of fun to imagine that we have these capabilities, because in a way we do. We are kind of real-life superheroes. You are really experiencing, even in that moment of suspending your disbelief, you really are experiencing something that doesn't have an explanation. It might as well be Cyclops firing lasers out of his eyes. It doesn't matter what it is. So when I see a movie like that, or a movie that portrays magicians or mentalists in a way that we are not, that's fine, because let people believe what they want to believe. If somebody's going to watch it and think that I can I can manipulate them to steal their wallet. Great, I have more power now. So I kind of look at it that way. I liked those movies. I thought they were fun.
I love them myself, so thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about the correlation between people in magic and some from seen as the dark evil side of society. You seem to be a person who's kind of embraced the oddity aspect of our culture.
Yeah.
Did that play hand in hand with your growing up as an entertainer, or is that just coincidental?
Oh, it's kind of, yeah, definitely. I mean, we could talk for hours about my passion for the unusual and the occult and the unexplained and, this sort of thing. I'm first and foremost, I'm a skeptic. I mean, I'm not somebody who's going to talk on the phone here and say that I believe in ghosts and UFOs and this sort of nonsense. But I'm definitely going to say that I've experienced things that don't have an explanation that I've figured out yet. And one such thing was growing up. I lived in a house where we all saw a figure of a woman walking around. And so much so this story has been on ghostly encounters. I've gone back to the house. I've stayed in contact with people who've moved into it since and even recently, and have noticed the same pattern with the tenants that are in this house. So there's definitely this sort of root world that I was living in reality where, if I have to go down to the basement, there's a chance that I'm going to have this happen. And, as a kid, that's fucking terrifying. Pardon my French there, but it is. It's really scary. And I kind of embraced it. And I went, hey, I don't have to be scared. It's my room. I'm not hurt. There's nothing that's happened to me. I've lived here for 4 or 5 years. And then I realized, man, I'm immune to this haunted house. I'm getting a thick skin. But hey, it scares other people. Oh, I can use this as a means to freak people out. And so I would get a Ouija board for my birthday and I would play with it and freak out the kids. And I mean, my friend's sister literally was peeing the bed for a week after I did that. And we were kids, but I was so interested in finding out how this, if it's real and how it can be manipulated. Shows like Unsolved Mysteries, I always loved the episodes when they talked about the supernatural, or In Search Of. When I was really, really little, that was a show on. I kind of understood it. Obviously, as an adult, I've rewatched it on the internet. It's fantastic. Bigfoot and cryptozoology and going to the Niagara Falls museums or the Ripley's museums. I was always fascinated with the unusual, shrunken heads and graveyards, you name it. And even now, I mean, my home, I have 20 or 22 human skulls from different parts of the world. I have everything from real taxidermy to animals that have been that are defected with double-headed or extra legs or this sort of thing, and a lot of stuff from the indigenous tribes, shrunken heads and statues and things that are fetish items. They're haunted. They have a power. And so I've been fascinated with this for my entire life, and I live among it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't scare me. But it definitely does add to the ambiance of what it is that I do, to the public at least.
That's awesome. All right, sorry, go ahead.
I'm kind of jaded by it now. It doesn't. I mean, it's funny because I'll be like looking at something, and I'll go to a friend's when we were allowed to do that, who have I know a guy that has a mask of human skin, and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. What do you want for it? And it would go in my room or in the museum in my home, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm jaded. And then meanwhile, other people would come by and be like, dude, I don't even want to be in this apartment. So it's definitely become a part of my norm.
Some people collect some weird shit out there, and you're
one of them. Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, and I'm one of them.
But you know what? Here's the thing. I bet you I'd feel more comfortable walking your collection than someone like, I don't know if you're familiar with Kurt Schilling, but he's got one of the biggest Nazi memorabilia collections in the world.
Yeah, you see, and that's just it, right? You know, you look at something like that, and you really have to shake your head and wonder and go, "Where's this guy's head at?" And you can get so many different opinions on that, preservation of history, to all these different concepts and theories that people try to put forward when they collect that type of thing. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable in that for two reasons. One, I'm half Jewish, and two, it's just so damn dark. I used to collect. I got a binder in a trade of letters that were signed from inmates, different people who did infamous things, and I had this letter, a binder of letters, and everyone was in it, like Gacy and Ramirez and all these O'Toole, all these guys were in it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to build one of those true crime sort of exhibits, and I ended up buying with John Wayne Gacy painting and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I got the letter that Mark Chapman wrote when he shot John Lennon. He wrote the letter about Catcher in the Rye. I have that. I still have that. But all that other stuff, I couldn't handle it. I had it in my museum, and it was just so negative that anytime I went in there, the feeling of it being something unique and exciting changed to it being horrible and horrific, and reminding us of the worst people. And I thought, that's not what this is about. And I sold it all. I found a buyer. Actually, I didn't sell it. I traded it for comics, for vintage comics that I needed for my collection. And I got rid of it all. And the room has been cheerful and fun since.
You know what? Like, as you were saying, I have to admit, like, I was like, that sounds interesting. I would actually look at that exhibit. As you were talking about the binder with maybe autographs or notes, I was thinking, like, does he have a Ted Bundy? Does he have a Charles Manson? I still have Manson, and I still have Chapman, and I still have one more, but I kept a couple. I still have Dahmer. I kept three of them. Wow.
And they've sort of been, now they're sort of in the background, and they're not really prominent. When I had the whole collection, it was half the room. It became a big focus, so it was really it overwhelmed you when you went in and looked at it. Now I have my John Lennon autograph with my Beatles memorabilia. I have it in with that, so it's sort of a dark spot in an otherwise music themed thing, and then the other ones are sort of in the other room, and you wouldn't notice them unless I pointed them out. So it's much more. It's definitely interesting. There's no question about it. I mean, true crime podcasts are the number one podcast in the world, and that means that everybody's listening to them. And that being said, I remember saying to a professional, health professional, I have these horrible nightmares. Like, what? Why? I'm a happy guy, a cheerful guy. I bring joy to the world in some manner. Why do I have these nightmares? And he asked me, what do you do before you go to bed? I said, I listen to true crime podcasts and watch YouTube videos of serial killers. And he goes, and you wonder why you have nightmares, right? So, it can't be good. It can't be good.
No.
But it is definitely interesting in a small dose. That's my take on it.
Like heroin.
yeah, imagine, right? Yeah. Go ahead, kids.
Yes.
A little won't hurt. Just a dab will do you.
just a spoonful of sugar, sweetheart.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, let me ask you this: with everything going on right now, the current pandemic, people isolating, and how essential do you think entertainment is to a society? Do you see it as?
Oh man.
Go ahead, please.
Right now, I mean, if we didn't, let me put it this way: I saw something on the internet that really hit home. I'm one of the fortunate ones where I do this full time. Okay, I'm one of the fortunate ones where when this is over, which I'm going to say is going to be sooner than we imagine, I think it's going to be in about 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to be getting back into the swing of our what is normal. Okay, and that's my prediction. However, during this time, when I'm one of the fortunate entertainers that get paid. Steffi and I get paid. We have a rate. our rate is met. We have good clients who, not to say that all clients aren't good, but we have clients that can afford what we do. Unfortunately, a lot of people I know are constantly told, can you cut us a deal? Can you do it for free? Can you do it for exposure? So here's what I have to say about entertainment now. After this is said and done, you had better damn pay the entertainers. Because it's those entertainers that entertained you while you were locked up in your home. Every performer you watched on a Netflix show, every podcast you listened to, everything and anything that involved an entertainer on any level, now you realize how important it is that those entertainers are given a monetary trade at their value for what they provide. Entertainment is critically important. It is the most important thing right now that is pulling us together. I mean, God forbid Tiger King is pulling us through this shit. And you know, and what else are you going to watch? You're going to watch the news. You're going to watch the news briefings of the president. Mind you, they're entertaining, but they're definitely not entertainment. I think that right now we need to look at what we want when we get out of this and work on things that we can put into our routine to achieve those goals when we come out of here. I think that it's kind of been a little bit of a reset for a lot of us, and we don't have to sort of be overindulging, and we can really take a few steps back and allow life to be simple when it hasn't been for so long. And you know, use whatever tools you have at your disposal now while you're at home. Learn a trade. I've been learning to play piano for the last 33 days, and I never thought I would learn an instrument. I'm not a musician. I'm not good at that. And there you are. I'm learning an instrument and I'm playing it, and there's a satisfaction to it, and there's a positivity to it, and that I'm self-entertaining. There's a positive outcome, and then when this is said and done, I walk back into the world with a smile on my face, opposed to horror. That was horrible. Now I'm traumatized because I was indoors for 48 days or 50 days or whatever it's going to be. So I think that we have to once again respect the entertainers that we're watching and take it on ourselves to learn something while we're here. Don't just rely on entertainment. You know, take that stand, take that step, and do something for your betterment.
Oh, great answer. And yeah, I think preparation is a big thing. I've been hearing a lot of people using that term, preparation. I think it's a great term for the state we're in and how you should be using this time. Be prepared so that when the world starts going again, kind of like a guy jumping on a treadmill, you don't want to slap your face off the ground because your feet aren't ready to move, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
But all right, I got two final questions for you. These are fun ones.
Sure.
Being a Canadian, I think you'll appreciate this first one. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would represent our country, so in 25,000 years, people are going to dig up this vault and they want to know what Canada.
5 albums.
No, not album. Oh, okay, you know what? I like your twist. You want to do 5 albums? I said items.
What did you ask me, though? I didn't hear what you asked me.
I said items.
Oh, 5 items. 5 items. Okay, I'm going to do 5 items and 5 albums.
I like it.
Okay, so 5 items in a box. So in 5,000 years, they can see what this is all about. You know what? I'm gonna have to put an iPhone. That would be one because it would be a real example of our time. I would want to put a map of an old school map of Toronto, like one of the modern city, but a physical printed map, and then I would have drawn on it different things of where I lived and places I would go and names of people. I would kind of make that sort of as its own time capsule to go in. 3 other items, things that they're not going to have that we rely on. You know, I would put you know what, I'd have to put some form. I would have to put a magic trick in there. Something that, you know what, I would put in there is I'd put my Penn and Teller trophy in there. So there was a remembrance of that big achievement that Steffi and I had that somebody in 5,000 years can look at it and bring that memory back. I would put, here's a morbid one. I would put a piece of my skin, my tattooed skin. I'm completely covered in tattoos. So I would figure out a way to take one off and preserve it and put it in there as well. And that would freak people out. And they'd be like, what the hell was wrong with this guy? Is that what they did back then?
Yeah.
And the final thing I would put in there is a bottle of water, because it would definitely, that sort of to me summarizes the way that we think as people. We're so stupid as a species, and the way that we destroy things. I would like to remind people with that just one bottle of life, the bottle of water, it's just life itself, but yet we're destroying the thing that gives us life. And just to remind people, like, if we've got through this and it's been 5,000 years later, don't forget that was the mistake this generation made.
Well, and I'll add to that Canada is definitely known for its fresh water.
For what?
Our fresh water, all of our lakes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're blessed.
And as for records, as for albums, it would be, and this is such an eclectic mix, it would be The Day the Country Died by the Subhumans, the British Subhumans, not the ones from Vancouver. It would be the Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. I would have to go with Sgt. Pepper. I would go with Revolver by the Beatles. The two other ones would be the best hits of Herman's Hermits, and you know what? Just because, I'm going to go out on a limb with this one, and I'm going to say it's got to be, I don't know. There's so many other ones that could be there for a purpose and a reason. Man, the fifth one, I mean, there's just so
Here's
many
what I'll
records.
say. Well, based on what you said
Pet
with it.
Sounds. There we go. Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Done.
Okay, there you go. I was thinking someone down the lines of a Buddy Holly or the Animals.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, do the Buddy Holly. Take back Pet Sounds. Put Buddy Holly in. He's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, no, based on your priors,
he's great.
I was thinking that sounded like... You definitely were raised by your grandparents. That's...
You can tell.
All right, last question I got for you. I had other ones, but this has already gone a little while, so I'm going to make this the last question. Hopefully we get to talk again sometime soon, but if you could create a Mount Rushmore for, let's say, mentalists, not just magicians, but for everyone that's honed your craft, the art that you have dedicated your life towards.
And I can put 4 faces on it?
Four faces, yeah.
So it would be Theo Animan, who was a mentalist in the 30s and early 40s. He was sort of the guy who documented and wrote the book on mentalism in a sense for that time. It would definitely be the Amazing Kreskin going on there, no question about that. Joe Dunninger, who was the big mentalist in the 40s and 50s and 60s, he was the first person to have 1 million listeners on radio. He was a big NBC star, Joe Dunninger. He has been an influence in terms of his thinking. And the fourth person to go on there, oh boy, it's going to be me, man. I work too hard. I can stick myself on there, even though I'm not, the most known. I think I could. If I'm being given the option, I'm going to stick myself on there. I've done enough to deserve at least the crack.
You know what I'd like to see is the person who has to try to get the blonde highlights into your hair.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. How would they do that? Well, you cut a different type of stone or cement it. Yeah,
We'll have to bring some Owen stone in from the north, boys.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hey, I'm going to sign off to the listeners, but I want to talk to you a little bit.
Before you go, I do want to do one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I asked you before we went on the air, and I want the listeners to know this. I asked you to think of the name of a wrestler, and then you said you changed your mind to a second wrestler. So, but you haven't told me the name of the second wrestler. You've only been thinking of it. You haven't written it down or anything. Is that correct?
This is very correct.
Okay, so I need you to tell me right now the name of the second wrestler. Just say the name of the second wrestler out loud. Go for it.
Mike Von Erich.
Mike Von Erich. Okay, so that's going to tell me a few things about the first wrestler you picked. first thing it's going to tell me is that the first wrestler you picked, who you have not told me, is also from the same region as Mike Von Erich. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, that would be, to the listeners who don't understand what's going on now, that would be in the Texas area, the southern states. I'm going to go through a few names right now, okay? I want you to say yes to every single answer I give you. Even if the answer is no, say yes. Okay, you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, Michael Hayes. Say yes.
Yes.
You see, you sort of changed your tone on that yes. It didn't sound convincing. Sounded like you sort of were saying it with a little bit of a no. How about Gino Hernandez?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What about Kerry Von Erich?
Yes.
Bit of a pause there. I don't know why. I don't think you picked him. Oh, hold on a minute here. I'm going to just say a couple random wrestlers that are coming to my head. They may not be from the Texas area. They may have gone into Texas, but oh boy, I just want to imagine this right now. Jerry Lawler. Just say yes.
Yes.
You're thinking, I'm going to tell you right now, you're thinking of Kerry Von Erich, but you're not thinking of him as Kerry Von Erich. You're thinking of him as the Texas Tornado, which is when he went north to New York. Yeah. Am I correct?
That's right.
There you go, folks. A little bit of psychology. A little bit of psychology right now over the air, and truly we didn't set this up in any way.
Guys, my listeners, you guys know me. I honestly didn't think, I'll be honest, I didn't want to bring it up because I was afraid that you didn't want to do it on air, that you wanted to wait till we were done.
Oh, no, I'll do it on air, no problem.
That was fucking
In fact, I don't know, when is this airing? When is this podcast airing? Because when it airs, this might be past when I'm doing something. I'm doing something tomorrow on air, so I'm doing a show on air. So if it does air before, and if it doesn't, then you are hearing this in the future, and it's already happened.
You know what? No, don't worry. We're streaming live right now, and it's going to be posted as a recording immediately afterwards.
Perfect. Perfect. So tomorrow night we're on the Mysterion Mind Reader Facebook page. I'm going to be doing about a half-hour mind reading show, and you guys can actually on Zoom you can come in and interact with me in my room here, and I could do that with you in real time and different things. I have a little set prepared, and it's my first time kind of doing this with people that are not in my environment. I have done stuff over the phone and definitely on the TV, but not with nobody in the room. So I'm trying to keep people still connected, even though we're isolated.
That's awesome, man. To be honest, guys, you got to check him out because this is really cool. I can't wait to ask him a little bit about this after. Hopefully he divulges some of the secrets, but that's awesome. I loved it. Thank you.
Well, my lips are sealed on that. I can't say anything. When you become a member of the Magic Castle, they put a little microchip in your head, and then if you're talking about magic, they hit this button and it jolts you, and then that's the end of you. So,
okay, You know what? Let me ask, hold on, one last question before I let you go then. What do you think of someone like the Masked Magician, the gentleman who came on TV and tried to give away all the secrets?
I mean, that's a question that's going to come up, and it causes so much debate. You know what, man? I don't know what to say. I think that in any industry, you're always going to have whistleblowers. You're always going to have people who want to get a quick buck off the successes of other people. He went on the air. He exposed illusions that people were using to make a living. I really don't think it impacted the industry as much as people think it would. I think if you're a good performer and you have a good show, that knowing how the trick is done going into it isn't going to make a difference. And I don't think that a lot of the people that watched him on TV are really going to be going to that many magic shows. Did you know that 1 in 9 people have seen a magician in real life? That's it. 1 in 9 people have ever met a magician do a trick for them or seen a magician live. That's not a lot of people. It's like, 12-13% of the population. So let's just say the people who are watching the show already, they're never going to go see a show anyway. And if they do, if they come see my show, chances are something they've seen on this show isn't going to be content in my show. The people I feel sorry for who are impacted by a thing like that are when it's done on the internet and it's current things and it's done with malice. It's done to deliberately expose a trick to bring down the content of current performers who are trying to make a living and putting it out there just for clicks and just for views. I mean, but then again, there's been instances where I've done a show or I'm doing something for somebody, and they'll say, "Hey, I saw that on," and these people are friends of mine at Scam School. I love them to bits. They expose a lot of stuff. They're friends of mine. In fact, we're planning to go down there and do something with them. But I've had people say to me, "Hey, I saw that on Scam School. I know how you did that," and that actually gives me the opportunity to go, "Oh, I'm glad you saw that on Scam School because the way I do it isn't that way," and then I presented it another way. And it messes their heads up because they already think they have an answer. And that actually gives the performer an opportunity to already be prepared to pull the wool over their eyes a second time. And then they have nothing they can say. And then you walk away going, "Ha, I win." And I've done that for the entire time of performing. I always have that extra little thing to make it different than the person believes it is, or at least tell them, "Hey, you know what? I agree with you. That is a way that it can be done, but I didn't do it that way." And sometimes I did, and sometimes they just believe me because I'm being so forward with that. Well, yeah, I watched that too. That would have been an easier way for me to do it, but that's not how I achieved it. So there's things you can say to get around that type of a topic when somebody wants to expose it. I thought the show was cheesy. I liked it kind of when it came out when I was younger, but watching parts of it again on the internet, it's just a cheesy show for Fox, and I think that it doesn't need much more than that.
Well, and it shows how embarrassed the guy himself was that he kept himself masked when he was exposing it.
Yeah, he had to. I mean, he kind of had to. So, I mean, and also it's a bit of a gimmick. I mean, I know who was under the mask. I'm not going to say, but a lot of us know who was under the mask. There was two, I believe, but I know who the one is. And that's so be it. I mean, it's 24 years ago that came out, and I mean, we're still working. People are still performing. Magic's actually having a huge revival right now. So I don't think it did much damage. If anything, it drew attention to Magic. So.
Well, no, and I've spoken to other magicians who've kind of echoed your sentiment in saying that what he exposed were kind of tricks that have been going on for a long time that people had already put their own twists on anyways. And yeah, at the end of the day, these are people's livelihoods. When you expose something like that, you could be exposing what people make a living off. But like you said, most of the people at home watching that aren't even the same people going to the shows. So.
Exactly. So it's a non-issue. I mean, you can get a little perturbed and then you just move on and you go, "Oh, whatever." I mean, I've had people exposing me. I mean, when I was on America's Got Talent with Steffi, they were doing people doing magicians watching us and talking about how we did what we did. And this is the honest truth. None of the people got it right. We had a thread of thousands of comments under the video. I'm talking 7, 8, maybe even 10,000 comments. Some positive, some negative. It's the internet. And a lot of people saying, "This is how they did it. This is how they did it." And they swear to God, not one person, not one, was able to guess how we did it. So, what is it worth? It's worth what it is. And they all think that if I chimed in on every one of them and said, "Nope, you're wrong, nope, you're wrong, nope, you're wrong," they're going to turn around and go, "Nope, I'm right." So it doesn't matter. But in reality, they were wrong. All of them were. So.
Haha, suckers. Okay. You still haven't figured it out. But okay, I'm going to sign off to the listeners, but please stay on the phone with me, Mr. Mysterion, okay?
Okay, yeah. Go for it.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoy listening, as always, as I enjoy chatting. And until next time, peace out.